Bring tonight's meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute. Mrs. Link.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by faxing notice of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January the 6th, 2023, and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January 9th, 2023, and January 10th, 2023. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Here.
Mayor Patali?
Here. I have a moment of silence for private reflection. Okay. We have no guest presentations. Addition, deletion of late agenda items. Can I get a motion to approve the late list with items 6D and 7J removed?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Early public comment. Do you have anybody signed up?
We have Jenny Ayers for 3B.
Good evening. Jenny Ayers, 4812 Green Ash Lane. You know, I don't usually do this, but I felt compelled tonight because, puzzled why there's a continued discussion on the agenda with regard to the redevelopment. I thought that the committee was going to come back with a report and that at some point there would be another time for public comment. Is that not the case, or did I misunderstand that at the last meeting? So is this a report, or?
No. this
It's
is
not a
an
report.
official report. No.
Okay, well then, I want to continue with a comment, if I may, Mr. Mayor. You know, I'm all for preservation of trees, the environment, and how businesses and homes look through historic preservation. But I think we have to have a balance when it comes to all of this. Look at the towns around us. Their business is booming because they have a similar process to the redevelopment and the rehabilitation program. Without these programs, increased ratables are going to continue to suffer. Our taxes are going to go up because we can't sustain minimum growth and lack thereof other businesses coming to our town. We elect you, the governing body, to do the right thing for our township, and you do. Look, I know that the trust has eroded over the last couple of years, and there were many things done behind the scenes and things we didn't appreciate it. Things that culminated in the redevelopment and rehabilitation ordinance and process becoming a target. The ordinance was right when it was first passed, and it's right now. It worked with regard to the project that we talk about all the time, and name I will not mention, and I think we have to really stay the course. It protects our township, our people, and businesses that want to come to this town. It shows we're doing our due diligence. I strongly encourage you to continue with the ordinance the way it is, with minor tweaks, such that was discussed before, with early public comment about projects and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brett?
No,
That's it?
That's it. Sorry.
Okay, discussion. A, discussion of Lake Lenape Dam. Brett?
Okay, I'm going to give a brief update on the dam project and go through some of the numbers here. Cindy's going to come up and help me out if anyone has any questions about some of the specifics on the numbers.
Just make sure you talk into the microphone. I feel like I'm home trying to take a nap and Sherry's vacuuming.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
All right, so we're going to build a dam. The title of the project is called the Lake Lenape Powerhouse Spillway Rehabilitation Project. The project's going to last roughly a year and a half to 2 years, depending on the construction time, material lead times, things like that. We hope to have a fully functional dam by the end of 2025, hopefully sooner. The new dam will be fully self-sufficient, will require no manual spillway operation by our Public Works Department. Due to the increased surface area of the labyrinth design, as you can see at the top there, and the top picture is going to show a dewatered construction, and at the bottom is a fully functional labyrinth dam. It's not a straight across spillway like we have now. It's a sawtooth design, which will enable about 20% more water to pass over. So basically, we can allow more water to pass in the same amount of linear footage. The historic level of the lake will be maintained with this new method of construction. So those who live along the lake, we typically right now try to keep the lake at anywhere from 1 inch to 6 inches going over the existing spillway. That same pool elevation will be maintained after the new dam is built. The refurbished powerhouse will allow water control during the spillway construction, and in the longer term will provide additional means of water release during storms. The gates on the new powerhouse will be fully automated. We won't have to go in and crank them by hand. There'll be a push button with electric and hydraulic controls that'll raise and lower the gates. The new dam the expected lifespan of the new dam will be about 100 years. So phase 1 of the project is the powerhouse rehabilitation. The importance of this is to establish a means of water control during the so when we're building the new dam, we have a means to release water, in case we get a storm, maintain the lake level, things like that. The original powerhouse was built around 1920 for hydroelectric power at the Wheaton's facility. Over the summer, the powerhouse rehabilitation project was awarded to R.E. Pearson. The new prefab gates are on order, and we hope to begin the project mid-summer, depending on when the gates come in. The scope of the project, we're going to replace both dilapidated wooden sluice gates on the lake side of the powerhouse. We're going to remove the generator turbines that are within the powerhouse. You can see down on the left side there, those are the old electric generators that are in the powerhouse. There's 2 of those. They're going to pull those electric generators out and remove the turbines from within the powerhouse and then reinstall the electric generators. This will allow significantly more water to pass through those culverts when the gates on the outside are opened up. They're also, while they're dewatered, they're going to repair the cracks within the culverts and add concrete where needed. If there's any voids in there, they're going to be able to go in there and do a full inspection and repair the inner chambers of the powerhouse as needed. The projected cost of the project is $865,000. The township and county are anticipating up to a 20% change order. We have to put an appropriation in place in case there are change orders. There may not be. There could actually be a decrease in price, but we do have to budget for up to 20%. The township's portion of this work on just the powerhouse is $506,337. If you divide the project in half, township is responsible for 50% and the county is responsible for 50% of the project. Okay, second phase of this project is the spillway reconstruction. This dam was built roughly in we're not sure, but the records that we have, it's somewhere around 1860. It's way out of its useful life. We're on borrowed time at the Lenape Dam. So, the project was awarded March 7th to South State Construction. It cannot begin until the powerhouse work's done. So that's an important thing to know, that the powerhouse has to be fully functional before we can even begin work at the spillway. We anticipate a start date of late summer, early fall of 2023. Scope: the construction of the coffer. There were actually going to be 2 cofferdams constructed on this project. There's going to be one on the lake side and there's going to be one on the river side. They have to dewater the area where the existing spillway is now. Once the 2 cofferdams are built, they're going to demolish the existing spillway. As I said before, once the new spillway is constructed, it will not require any public works operation. And as I said before, the permits require us to keep the lake at normal pool elevation, which means that the people can still fish on the lake, the boaters can still row, the cove can still open up in the summer. Nothing's really going to change on the lake side of the project. We anticipate construction to take roughly a year and a half to 2 years. Cost breakdown. This is the tough part. The total estimated county and township costs for spillway improvements, including engineering and inspection and changes, projected to be $13,599,000. The township shares 50% of all costs, and the township's responsibility is broken down below. Construction is going to be roughly $5,433,630. Engineering $279,148. And we have to anticipate a potential change order of 20% of the entire $6,800,000 project, which brings us in right around just over $1 million for change orders. So we're going to break it down a little bit further on the right here. The township's portion of the spillway improvements, $6,799,504. We can subtract out our grant that we received last year. Half of the $4.6 million is the $2.3 that the township's able to use towards our budget, bringing the spillway total down to $4,499,504.54. You add that $4.5 million to the $500,000 at the powerhouse, you have a total project of $5 million. And this is just the township's portion. The county's going to present the same, similar presentation to the commissioners. How are we paying for the project? First, we need an appropriation to charge expenses to beginning this year, 2023. Our next move is to introduce a bond ordinance on May 15th for $5 million. This bond will cover all costs associated with the powerhouse and spillway improvements. This would be a dedicated bond for infrastructure with a heightened useful life. If we chose, this gives us the option of longer-term financing over our normal 20 years. We could stretch this out to 30 or even 40 years. We're going to try not to do that because interest rates change. They tend to go up when you increase the term, but we have the ability in tough years to stretch it out. Upcoming. We recently made application to the local finance board seeking a waiver to utilize a portion of our grant funding. That's the $2.3 million to substitute the 5% down payment requirement for a bond. For this project, it would be roughly $250,000 that we'd have to put in this year's budget for a $5 million bond. On April 19th, Cindy's going to go up in person to make our case to the local finance board. If approved, This will take the place of the 250 that we would have to insert this year into the budget. And a lot of you are asking about budget introduction. We were actually going to introduce tonight, but because of this, we pushed it off till the next meeting. We have to get these numbers in place so we can plug them into our budget to accurately introduce the budget. So we're going to do that on April 17th. This is just a breakdown of what it costs Public Works to and the township to oversee and operate the dam every year. Supervisor time for monitoring it takes roughly 130 hours annually. We go up there every day, we fill out reports, we go on the USGS website, we call people in at night and during storms to open and close floodgates. Our staff time for opening and closing floodgates, any work that we perform at the dam, it's roughly 120 hours annually, $3,000. On an average, we spend between $1,000 and $2,000 of the dam in material. So it costs us about $8,000 a year just to monitor and open and close floodgates. Our main concern isn't so much the cost, it's the safety. If you can't really see very well in this picture, but you'll notice those wing walls don't have fencing around them. That's where our people are going to look and monitor the river and the lake. It's about a 20-foot fall from the top of that wing wall if you were to take a step in the wrong direction. That operator, you can't really see it, but there's an operator platform where there's 3 floodgates where they're out on the cofferdam side there. It's very outdated. There's not many there's not much safety-wise in place at the dam to protect our people. A lot of the operation that goes on there is at night during storms. We don't get called out there during sunny days like today. It's usually like Hurricane Irene or a nor'easter, last minute trying to get everything opened up. The weather forecast changed. They said it was just going to be a light shower and we get 4 inches of rain. A thunderstorm came through. And it could be 4 inches of rain 40 miles away. Sometimes Mays Landing doesn't get 4 inches of rain, but Gloucester does. We have to act at the spillway and anticipate for that. If we don't, then dry run floods and, Hudson Street all back in there floods if we don't act. So this is a safety problem, not so much a man-hours problem on Public Works' behalf. Oversight. A lot of questions have been asked about oversight of the project. WSP has been hired by us in the county to design and provide inspection and daily oversight of this project and the Powerhouse project. In addition to that, myself, the Director of Public Works, and our engineer and their inspectors will provide additional daily oversight. We'll all participate in biweekly project meetings with the county and WSP consultants. All project change orders will be agreed to by all parties, not just by the county. Additional work will be performed at the discretion of Atlanta County Board of Commissioners and the Hamilton Township Committee. And that's all I have. And I can open it up for any questions that anyone has.
Any questions from committee? Questions or comments?
Very good report.
Yeah, I do have a question. I know that you have made it your life occupation, studying the runoff of the various streams that affect our Lake Lenape. And accordingly, you adjust the level of the lake. Now, you say that's going to be done automatically. how does that work?
The surface area of the new spillway is going to be 20% larger because of the labyrinth design.
Okay,
So when the level increases, let's just say it increases 6 inches, more water is going to be able to pass over that spillway than it did before. It's going to self-maintain itself at 0 to 6 inches, where before, to maintain that 0 to 6 inches, we would have to open or close a floodgate. 1 inch of rain is typically 1 floodgate right now. Moving forward, the labyrinth will allow enough water to pass to do away with that need.
okay, now, another thing, if the labyrinth sort of reminds me of biology, the mitochondria and the little things increase the surface area. But if you have more than 6% go over the spillway, how is that going to impact the people downstream?
Well, we surveyed that, and that was one of the biggest challenges. The obvious answer to that was, the obvious answer to the problem on the lake and the river on the non-tidal side was to build a bigger spillway, make the entire thing a spillway, and be able to just put tons of water down on the tidal side. The problem is you're not allowed to do that. You have to maintain so much, you can only put so much water into the tidal side before it becomes a problem. We had an extensive survey done of all the neighborhoods down by the Mays Landing Firehouse and Dannenhauer Lane. WSP surveyed downtown Mays Landing and basically designed that spillway with the existing flood plain that we have over there, and the question that you have, it's not going to be a problem downstream.
Okay. Did you have a percentage of how much, how high it would become if you had that 13 inches of?
I don't know what the design storm, I think it was 25, or I think they used a 25-year storm, but at the 25-year storm, they said there would be no change downstream to where it is now, and flood impact-wise.
And of course, it would depend on the tide. If there was low tide, it wouldn't be as much of an impact.
Obviously, if we're gonna get a 25-inch or 25-year storm, I'm gonna call Public Works and direct them to open the powerhouse, just as a precaution.
Okay, does this involve the ladder for the fish to go up into?
Yes, they're gonna have to remove the fish ladder and reinstall it temporarily while construction, they're gonna have to move and reinstall it in a different location while construction's happening, and then reinstall it after construction's done. So the fish ladder that's another thing, that the fish ladder has to be maintained during construction as well. We can't just do away with the fish ladder.
No, you can't do away with those fish. The other thing is, to my understanding, the dam is not just the spillway.
The
It
dam is
is-
actually not the spillway.
What?
The dam is actually not it's the two, the land areas on both sides of the spillway. That's the dam. That's the east and west embankment of the dam.
Okay, is there, I would imagine there is in this budget, repairing that dam area around the spillway.
The dam area around the spillway that's already been repaired. That was repaired, I think, when did South State go out there and I think it was within the last 5 years they were
5
out
years
there.
ago.
They did rolled concrete repairs out there. Bob may know better. 3 years. There's no work identified on the actual dam
Okay,
that needs to be done. They did do some ground penetrating radar over there to make sure of that. So they did test it to make sure everything was good there, and they did soil borings over there. All the work that we're talking about is actually at the spillway and the powerhouse on this one.
Yeah, I was made aware that the, animals would burrow into that dam area, creating an issue, and that's what you said you.
Those
You
are,
took care
those
of.
are dealt with on the annual inspections at the dam. Public Works from the county and the township handle that.
Oh, good. Very good. Otherwise, it's a very good report.
Anything else from anybody?
No, I'm
All
good, very good
all
job,
good.
Brett.
Very good, thanks, Brett. Moving on. Discussions, B, discussion of redevelopment rehabilitation subcommittee.
Oh, 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There were action items.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On ordinance.
So 3A2 is just another discussion about introducing the $5 million bond ordinance, which will be done March 15th if you're in agreement with that.
March 15th?
April 17th.
April
I'm
17th.
sorry.
April 17th,
May 15th, I'm sorry.
May,
May 15th.
April, May, June, July. Now, if we vote on that, is that to,
You would just be authorizing us to put the ordinance together to introduce it May 15th.
okay, but the one idea is to have the initial deposit of 250,000.
Yeah, that's
Wait.
that's the second one.
That's
That's number three.
Oh,
That's
that's
item
number 3? Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right. Okay.
So we need a vote to authorize to go ahead and start this ordinance.
Motion.
just a
I
motion.
have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor? Aye.
I
Against?
think you have to take.
No, we don't need a roll call on that because it's,
Oh, it's just a
it's
resolution.
resolution,
Yeah,
telling them to go ahead and do it. We're not spending the money yet.
yeah.
Yet.
We'll let somebody else.
Now, see, the resolution,
Yes. All right, so 3A, number 3. Authorize the Township of Hamilton to make application to the local finance board for the 5% waiver for the down payment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Blank?
yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patel?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm carried.
Work your magic. All right. Discussion redevelopment rehabilitation subcommittee. Art, you have anything?
No, we've had one meeting since our last committee meeting. There's a lot of discussion. I think our next meeting is going to involve the redevelopment attorneys to talk to them about several different concerns. But other than that, no, I don't have anything.
Mrs. Link?
Well, I did introduce the idea of going back to how we did it before 2018. And it seemed as though we developed a lot of things along 322. I'm not sure whether the move of the Outback restaurant came to 322, but it left EHT and came to us. Now, was that during redevelopment? Did they just come and,
That was before my time, Rich.
that was with
I
the
believe-
Outback restaurant?
At the time, it was either Benderson or DDR that lured them out of the Shore Mall because basically Outback was Outback at the Shore Mall.
Yeah, it was
Now
in a
they
bad
have-
position.
I don't recall as planning board member that they did anything on redevelopment, just like Benderson across the street where they have their new building with the Starbucks. They did not do anything under redevelopment. They just did it under normal construction. I could
Okay.
be wrong, but I don't remember anything being about redevelopment there.
No, I don't think I don't
Okay,
believe there was a
No, I
redevelopment
don't
there,
think so
Rich.
either.
I think there was multiple variances that Outback needed.
There was, I remember
board
that
was helpful
night,
with.
Mr. Balicki's here, there was 31 variances that they were so very well prepared, they got it through in one night. It was remarkable.
Okay, all right. So, in the past, our scheme of attracting developers has worked. And it is my understanding from our meeting that redevelopment means rezoning. Now, that has become the issue with a former developer, and because he was not successful, he was able to say in the newspaper that we don't want development, we don't want this, we don't want that, it's a terrible place. But I would say that in the past, we have attracted many developers, and that we have abided by the zoning authorized by the Pinelands. 75% of our land is designated through the Pinelands. And it should not be taken lightly, because according to Mr. Now, I only was concerned about little plants in that area. Well, I was on the Pineland Commission for 2 years, and they're very serious about maintaining plants and animals that are, not being or undergoing extinction. I found out in dealing with the Pinelands the significance of the aquifer that is maintained, because our soil is a very porous soil, and in the wetlands and the areas that they've designated, this water goes straight to the aquifer and provides clean water for not only ourselves, but North Jersey as well. And I think that we have to be very, very careful in saying that we can redevelop, rezone areas that have been preserved for quite some time. And I haven't, we still, with 75% of our land under restrictions by the Pinelands, we do have a lot of areas for development. And we went rogue because it seemed like it was going to make us a lot of money for our, because of COVID and a lot of places going out of business. We do need significant ratables. But we have to be careful in how we attract those people who want to develop our land and take away some of the zoning that is very valuable for the Pinelands. So it's an ongoing discussion. We agreed that the way in which this redevelopment scheme was done was not proper. And we, I think Art mentioned the governing body resolution referring to the planning board. Planning board prepares a report, holds public hearings after giving notice and publication. Planning board adopts a resolution, sends it back to the governing body. Then the governing body adopts by resolution an MOU, and that should have been the process, and which it wasn't done. So I think if we're going to change the redevelopment or amend it, it has to spell those things out so that the people who are involved in those areas, in the forest area, in the R20, in the R5, and so on and so forth, are properly, informed, and what it would mean to them as far as the rezoning to accommodate some of these redevelopment projects. So I think we're on a path to come to some sort of conclusion, but we're, as Art said, we have another meeting coming up.
Okay, there's,
If I could add to that.
go ahead, Rich.
Mrs. Link, as a former chair of the planning board, your sequences are out of sequence. The MOU is not issued after the planning board has examined this site work and everything else. The MOU is the first step, and all that is doing is creating a level that, yeah, we like your project. Now the developer, whoever, whatever it is, can open an escrow account to pay the engineers, to pay everyone for his professional work. We have not given out, at that point, the township has not given out any approvals whatsoever, any understanding whatsoever. You stated that it went through planning and it came to committee, and then it's the MOU. The MOU is the first step.
No,
Okay, I gave you your time, please let me speak.
yeah,
Okay? From there, then they go to Pinelands, they go to engineering. The only thing they don't do is they don't go to zoning, but if Pinelands and everything else, and that is to streamline the process, to try to get Outback to the township, our township, out of another township where they're paying taxes. We're trying to entice business to come here, not deter them. There's nothing behind the scenes that happens, nothing whatsoever.
okay, may I?
I'm sorry,
may
I sat there and I volunteered thousands and thousands of hours. And we have gone through engineering reports. Now, the last thing that went through, that gentleman was not approved whatsoever. Never came before us whatsoever. Never went through engineering. You could check with our engineer. He was just exploring his options. And that's where it goes. And it's not that the planning board saw it and gave him the MOU. The MOU is just to set up so that when he puts money in escrow, he can pay our township engineers, whatever professionals, for their work. Nothing has ever been approved with an MOU. It's just basically a step to move forward.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
The only thing that I see, I'm going along with what she's saying, but the zoning board, Committeeman Cheeks, you said don't have anything to do. Do you think that the zoning board should be a part of this?
Well,
Yes.
that is a state standard. Nothing was
You
done
mean-
behind the scenes. Everything
No,
was
I
done
mean on the
through state
ordinance.
standards.
The
I mean-
zoning board, my intention tonight is to appoint somebody to this subcommittee from the zoning board.
Okay, I think that's a good idea, because I had to get a copy of the ordinance that Committeewoman Link wanted to discuss, because I wasn't a part of the committee at that time. But as I began to read it, I didn't see anything from zoning. So I think that's a good idea.
Well,
Thank you.
let's go back to Trophy Park. The MOU, according to Mally, it didn't need all those different steps that I was talking about. I was not saying that that's how it had to be. That is not, that's a proposed idea, because originally, when this was passed, it was sort of understood that there would be a step-by-step process. And the MOU does not give them any right to start building. It is no total authorization, which I totally agree with you. Once, the next step, he would then actually go before the planning board for the different, but once he had the documentation from the redevelopment attorneys, and that's then, the whole idea of this ordinance was to change the zoning. And since the zoning is very much a part of this, it seems as though we're saying, okay, here's a piece of very cheap land, very inexpensive. Don't go to where we really need the redevelopment and the racetrack, but go to this piece of land that, is reasonably, will be reasonably cost. All right? So then if you go to an area where they're selling it cheap, and it involves an area that was the R5, and the Atlantic, well, why can't we get that changed to agree to what we want to do and get the zoning changed? And that's what was happening. They wanted to, I know the process they wanted to do. They wanted to take that piece of property and get it rezoned. And that in order to rezone it through the Pinelands, they would have to search out another area in our growth intensive area and buy 500 acres of that growth intense and make the swap so that they could then it could be a viable project. And, because I've called the Pineland several times about this. So that, to me, was, a plan to rezone something that has already been preserved by the Pinelands. Not that there's no working with the Pinelands on some of these things, but it involved such a wooded area that was a pristine piece of land. And, I just felt as though it attracted people for the wrong reason. Now, that could happen in R20, it could happen in R70.
We could go, we've already discussed this a lot.
I'd like to, one comment, not Trophy Park, in general, for them to get to the planning board, any developer, they go through teams of our own professionals, engineers, everyone, Pinelands approval, before they even get to the planning board. They have years, a big project will be years to get there. It's not like it just comes across the planning board desk and it gets approval. There is a check and balance system that you can't believe that you're insinuating that there's nothing there whatsoever, that
Oh,
they
no.
come right. I'm just letting you, I listen to you. And now they have to go through everything. Now, the project you're speaking about, Pinelands might have said no way. NAFAC might have said no way, and it ends. But it doesn't cost us a dime. It doesn't cost us a dime. They could turn around and say the racetrack, Pinelands might say they don't want that developed. It's not us. And
I
we
mean-
don't approve something just because we want it. Nothing gets approved. The engineers and the professionals go over everything and go over all the state laws and everything else before it ever comes to Pinelands or to Planning Board. And then Planning Board, if they approve it, all they do is give committee a recommendation to approve it. It's not like Planning Board said, yes, it's approved. It has to come to committee for the approval,
The final approval.
the final approval, yes.
Well,
Well,
I-
I mean,
I-
I
I
don't
don't-
want this to turn into, we're talking about Trophy Park. We're supposed to be talking
We're
about
talking about
we should.
redevelopment.
rehab and redevelopment. And so, really, we're at a point,
Mr. Mayor, can I speak for just a second?
1 second.
The bottom line with Trophy Park is that this ordinance worked to a T. It absolutely did exactly what it's supposed to do. Everybody gets afraid of this MOU. An MOU is basically saying, yes, we are interested in looking at what you're bringing to the table. The developer then puts up money to cover all the expenses for them to do a deeper dive. We don't do a deep dive until that happens. When the deep dive happens, it reveals things that we don't necessarily know about. In Trophy Park's case, there was Pineland issues, there was FAA issues, there was issue with county roads, there was 6 or 7 different reasons why the MOU was not extended. Period. The ordinance worked. That's exactly how it's supposed to work. They don't just walk in and say, we're going to change your zoning and we're going to build right here. That's not how it works. Rehabilitation and redevelopment is more than just changing zoning. Redevelopment is about bringing potential projects in to allow them to be looked at, and if they don't work, they don't work. But when you start putting these things on ordinances that you're telling businesses to stay away. You're going to make it more difficult on them when the towns around you have no problem with this ordinance as it sits.
that's not true.
I believe it is, Judy.
No, it isn't.
Galloway loves it.
EHT, no.
EHT doesn't have this ordinance, Judy.
No, I know it doesn't.
Okay, I think,
Don't have
Okay,
I-
let's go back to the
They're killing it.
subcommittee and continue to talk about it. That's,
and I would like to, like, as I said earlier, I'd like to appoint somebody from the zoning board. I'd like to appoint Elaine Valentino. Now, I have not spoken to her. I will reach out to her. If she doesn't wish to do it, I will ask her to speak to the people in zoning and maybe give us a couple of other names, and we'll go from there. But as of right now, I'd like to appoint tentatively Elaine Valentino.
And that's to the subcommittee, Mayor?
That's to the subcommittee, correct. So,
that's your choice. You don't need a vote on that, right?
no,
Okay.
no. Moving on to discussions. C, increasing fees for certified copies of vital records, increasing number of staff hours for municipal clerk's office. So with our county clerk, Joe Girillo, performing many weddings, it's creating a bit of a increase in volume for our clerk's office. So going to need to increase the hours for one of the clerks in the clerk's office. And also, there's an issue with the copies the certified copies of all the records. For some reason, that paper is special paper, it's very expensive. So we were looking at ways to possibly recover those costs. So this was our idea, was to increase the hours from 35 hours to 40 hours a week for the clerk. Mrs. Moore, Rita, do you have anything you want to say? You want to throw some stuff in here?
Just to clarify a little bit, when they went to a central municipal court, up until that time, there was a judge in every town doing weddings. So we lost 10 judges doing weddings. Mayors hardly ever perform ceremonies anymore, including big towns, Galloway, Egg Harbor Township. They have nobody performing ceremonies. Joe Girallo is a constitutional officer that can, and he has, and he's made it a very pleasant experience for the couples, and it's drawing people to get married in Mays Landing. It's been over 105% increase of certified copies I'm doing. Anybody that's married here in Mays Landing, we do the certified copies. They could have applied and live anywhere in the state of New Jersey. So there's a huge draw. The park is really nice. He's built a room that's he's calling it a chapel. There's a lot of incentive bringing people to Mays Landing to get married. If the judges were doing it over there at the central court, it would still come to us. Even if it wasn't Joe, it was the judges, the surrogate, same thing, still Mays Landing. So with the mayors not doing the weddings and the local judges not existing anymore, they're all coming here. So this is just to clarify, our assistant in the office is only 35 hours. Jane and I are 40. So this would bring her from 35 to 40. It's the most economical way I could think of to do it. The safety paper is expensive, but it's the man hours. Brett came up with a fee to compensate this, so there won't be anything on our taxpayers. It'll self-fund by the sale of the certified copies, hopefully.
Right now, our certified copies are only $10 per copy. Neighboring towns, on average, it's $25 per copy. If you went to the state to get the copy made, it would be $35, but you'd have to wait 2 weeks up to a month for your copies. We're proposing to increase our fees from $10 to $28 per copy. This would more than cover the additional hours in the clerk's office and pay for the added materials. We're projected to have up to 500, maybe 500 weddings this year in Hamilton Township.
No, he's saying he thinks 200 weddings,
And
which
that's,
normally each couple gets 2 certified copies.
okay.
That doesn't encompass the time for phone calls, if there's a mistake on the marriage license, dealing with the clerk from the other town. But hopefully this covers it. If this really takes off and beyond that, I don't know. But,
It's going to cover the extra 5 hours a week in clerk hours.
yes. And the only other thing was, if you decide that you would like to do this, we can introduce that on the ordinance under 5C. I just want to make sure that I explain that properly. So there's already an ordinance 5C, so this would just add another line to that, if you want to do it.
Was everybody okay with doing that?
I'm fine.
Yes.
Selma?
I'm fine.
A motion?
Hold on, I have a question.
Yes.
So he's doing weddings from people from outside this county also?
He can. He can.
Is he?
Yes. Yes. Now, the one sample was a couple where one of the parties was from Vineland, but the other person was from Mays Landing.
Okay.
So, but I don't believe he's turning anyone away, and I'm not sure what his oath of office says. I'm not sure if he
Okay.
can turn anybody away. I'm trying to hold him, not anybody from out of state. If it's out of state, I have to take the whole process from beginning to end. So hopefully it won't attract people from out of state. He is going to run a TV commercial, though.
Even though he's bringing in people from out of the county, he's bringing in a lot of people from other municipalities, and they're
It's
coming
m-
here for their certified copies.
It's mainly, I just got a call, I mean, people are absolutely desperate for someone to perform a ceremony. I know there's nobody in Galloway, and I don't believe there's anybody in Egg Harbor Township. Talking about civil, obviously, not religious,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You okay with adding this to 5C? All right. We don't need a motion or anything for that, right, Rita?
No, but the fees, we'll look at as part of the fee ordinance, which is, stay tuned.
Which is stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. And 5C, when you introduce that, will include this.
Okay. So don't throw this way, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
That'll explain that.
We have no public hearings for adoption of ordinances. Introduction of ordinance. 5A. Ordinance 2035-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 301, Article 1 of the Township Code to create a no parking zone on certain portions of Brandywine Road in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey.
Motion.
I have a motion, or your second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. 5B, introduction ordinance 2036-2023, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for maximum number of employees, part-time, seasonal, hourly rate. We discussed this at the last meeting.
Yes.
So move.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Do I need a roll call on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. 5C. Introduction ordinance 2037-2023, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees, Public Works Department, and Finance Department. Brett, you want to kind of give us,
This is,
Brett and Rita?
yeah, this is to change our accounts payable position this is just a title change from accounts payable to finance assistant in finance. And then in Public Works, we're changing an operations manager's position to a deputy operations manager's position. It's just a title change.
And is this where we wanted to do,
Yeah, they'll be amending Section A, the salary maximum for the administrative assistant to the township clerk from 55 to 60,000. Because with the extra 5 hours, she's going to go above the 55.
okay. Does everybody understand?
Yes,
Yes.
added.
Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
Award bids and contracts, 6A. Authorized change order 1 for bid 2022, electric services to Northeast Electrical Services LLC in the amount of $24,150 for additional work. This is to move the standby generator from the MUA building over to our Public Works building, correct?
Yes.
Motion.
I hear a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
6B, award option year 3 on bid 2021-03 to provide on-site inspection and plan review agencies for the electrical subcode in the amount of 100% of department fees and as-needed fire, plumbing, and building plan review at $25 an inspection, and inspection at $35 for each occurrence to Trinity Code Inspections LLC for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, not to exceed $125,000. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6C, award engineering services to Mott Watkins Associates for design, permitting, and construction services for Phase 2 of the 2022 road program in the amount of $48,000. This would be for Nelson Avenue, Liberty Avenue, Oliver Avenue, between Reading and Monmouth, and Crocus Street.
Motion.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Consent agenda. I know I want to pull 7A, number 2. Anybody else? Somebody like to make a motion
Motion.
to consent agenda?
7A through 7I excluding 7A2.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I just
Aye.
can I have a question on,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have a problem with it, I just had a question on G.
You want to pull that?
No, I don't want to pull it. Can I question it? I have a question.
7G.
I just wanted to know, I'm glad that we're receiving the settlement agreement, but I wanted to know what we were going to do. I had Brett to look into a couple of things, and I know the chief may have some ideas, I was told, in reference to the opioid agreement, because I just wanted to know how we were going to utilize the funding.
Looks like the chief's going to come down.
Did you ask for him?
I didn't, but he's the chief.
So
Settlement
this
did.
settlement agreement that it's national
Right.
with all the pharmaceutical companies. So as they settle with each pharmaceutical company, then they divvy up the money. So right now, I believe we have 33,000. And this is for an additional, we don't know yet. So the document's like 316 pages. So and there's a lot of different programs for healthcare providers, for us, for everything. So what we've been talking about over the last year is, I believe we could set up like scholarships for recovery programs. So if we come across somebody that may need some treatment or may need to get into a treatment facility and they don't have any health care or something like that, we could give them a scholarship to try to help them along. We can partner up with nonprofits and faith communities in order to get them involved and maybe get the people that are suffering from these addictions to come and maybe find some faith and move on with different churches. And then develop and support best practices on addressing opioid use disorder in the workplace. So there's a bunch of different ideas we have, but there's going to be a lot more money coming in. So we just want to utilize it in the best way possible. So if any of you have any ideas that we could use it for, we can surely discuss it. There are a lot of reporting, or there's a lot of reporting that's going to have to be done to make sure that we spend it in the right way. I believe you have to do a report every year, correct? Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, we're talking a long period of time.
Right, the reason why I brought it up, thank you, Chief, and Ms. Lindsay, is because we have a high opioid problem here. It's all over. So I just wanted to know how we could use it to maybe save a life or help, with it. I didn't know, I saw we were receiving the money, but I didn't see actually a program, because I know we got Recovery Centers of America, John Brooks, I know all of that, so I didn't know how we were going to utilize the monies that we were receiving to be able to help with the issue.
Eventually, we're hoping that we're going to be able to partner up with those individuals or those companies.
All right. All right, thank
I
you.
volunteered to be on the committee with all the counties, with all the municipalities. I attended 2 meetings, and a lot of it is, they partner up with John Brooks, with everything, and some of them have been using the money towards supplies in their van when they go around to different areas to try to help people to.
Like Narcan?
They,
Narcan.
yeah, well, and many other things.
Okay.
But they'll, I believe everybody gets the email. If you see the one email, I can't remember who sends it out, but it'll tell you where that van is going. Like 2 or 3 times a week, it goes to different places, the boardwalk in Atlantic City. I don't even think it's been in Hamilton Township yet, to be honest. I haven't seen, has it? I'm sure it has, I probably just missed it. But it's all over the county, and where they go where they know that there's people who need help.
You talk about Sheriff Scheffler's van?
It's that, and it's other things too. Like I said, it's John Brooks, it's.
Recovery Centers of
Yeah, it's the
America.
other recovery centers, yeah. What's that?
Is it,
Yeah, well, that's the Hope one, but there were some other ones that were putting things together and going from there with all this money that's coming out.
how about the Enlightened Solutions?
I didn't hear anything about that at the 2 meetings I went to. I'm not saying that they didn't bring it up, but just saying.
They
We have
deal
a,
with that all the time.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? Ayes have it. So we pulled
That,
7A, number 2, which is the Jack Lyons. I know there were some questions about it before. It's just giving them the permission to do, sell the equipment out there at Atlantic City Race Course.
which they always do.
Yes,
Nothing's changed.
nothing's changed.
I have no problem with that
Nope. Hear a motion?
motion.
So
A
moved.
motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Eight A, resolution to appoint Arthur Train III as a full-time regular laborer, $35,695.84, annually effective date April 10th, 2023. Employment contingent upon successful completion of physical drug screen and background check.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Approvals.
This one.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
oh, the,
Resolution to appoint Hilda, how do you say her last name? Saya, as civilian evidence technician effective 3/23/2023 with no change in salary.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Approvals. Minutes, regular meeting from March 20th, 2023.
Motion.
second,
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Minutes, executive session meeting minutes, March 20th, 2023.
So moved.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes?
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Bill list total $734,332.28.
So moved.
Cheap mouth, I'll second it.
You did read that? No?
Have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Mr. Administrator.
Friday was Mary Kelly's last day. She helped us out for the last couple months in the HR department, and I just wanted to thank her for stepping in and getting us back on track in HR. The other thing I wanted to do real quickly is go back to item 7 or 6A, which is the change order for Public Works. We didn't touch on the fact that we're using a $10,000 grant.
A grant.
To offset that. So we're doing a $24,000 change order, but only $14,000 of that is actually going to come out of township dollars. The other 10 is funded through the Atlantic City Electric Sustainable New Jersey grant. that we
And how much was it looking like it was going to cost us to put a generator out there originally?
We were estimating around $150,000.
And we're getting it for 25,000.
We're getting it for 14.
Well, 14, correct.
So it's important to note that we got that and we're using that.
Good job. Good job.
That's all I have.
Mr. Solicitor.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Engineer.
Nothing to report, Mayor, tonight.
Township Committee, Mr. Schenker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to report, we had a recreation meeting this evening and are moving forward with the Lenape improvements along with the improvements to Underhill Park. Underhill Park is going to receive some ADA improvements and bathroom improvements, and Leapy Field improvements is the bathroom concession stand. We're changing it a little bit to add a second story to the bathroom instead of making it bigger because they have storage problems out there also. We're putting it back out to bid because the last set of bids came in not so favorably. So we made some changes to try and get it down a little bit and also do things a little differently to try and get numbers where we need them to be, and we'll report on that in an upcoming meeting. I also like to thank Mary Kelly. She was a wonderful employee of the township for a long time, and her coming back to help us out just says a lot about her, and she's going to be missed. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Witherspoon.
I attended the Atlantic County League of Municipalities dinner meeting, and it was a very good meeting. Rick Dobie spoke about the ACUA, and of course, he's retiring he's retired, because I think April 1st, the new person started. They went up 11% with the fees, but they're still the lowest in the county or the state. And I thought it was very interesting because the landfill is full, or will be full. They're talking about going to Pennsylvania to take the recycling and all of that. So I have to continue to follow up on that. They will be having a meeting on April the 21st. It's the 90th anniversary for the Atlantic County League of Municipalities, and Senator Gormley is going to be the guest speaker, and I've already signed up to go and represent the township if no one else goes.
Let me know when you're going.
It's April the 21st,
April the 20th.
and it's going to be at Tomasella Winery. I'm not saying, know if I'm saying that right, in Hamilton. Yeah, that's where it's going to be, and it's going to be a great event from what I understood. That's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Cheek.
Well, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Easter coming up this Sunday. And on a personal note, as of this Easter 20 years ago, my youngest daughter was in Holland playing for the United States of America. Everyone was at my mom and dad's house, and I got a phone call on a phone back then. There had to be 40 people in the house, and it was my daughter who's in Holland, in high school, and you could tell with your own high school kids when something's wrong. And on Easter Sunday, 20 years ago, she was named the MVP of the world in a tournament in Holland. So, that's one heck of a memory. Happy Easter to everyone.
Very good. Mrs. Link?
I have, I'm not sure how many students are from our township, but from our general area, the robotics club had won national recognition, and they just had a fundraiser locally. They are to go to the World Meet in Texas, and these are just fantastic group of kids that, you know, we hear a lot about sports and, you know, which is great, but we don't always hear about things of this nature. And the robotics club of PAL, the PAL group from EHT, is the group that is going to Worlds to compete. And we wish them all the luck and scientific knowledge that they have to have in order to compete and win at Worlds. That's it.
Very good. I too would like to say thank you to Mary Kelly. As Art and everybody said, great employee, and it was really great for her to come back and do what she did and kind of get us out of a little bit of a jam. So thanks again to Mary. And I want to give kudos to the Public Works, to the police department, to the firefighters, and all the first responders for how they handled the storm Saturday night. I don't know if anybody knows, but there's the possibility, I didn't hear if it's official or not, that a tornado might have touched down in Mizpah. House lost his whole roof, half the roof, part of the roof. And luckily, that was the only house out there that got major damage. There was a house in Harding Lakes that had a huge tree that actually went through the house, and it was a rental, and the people moved out Saturday, and the tree fell on it Saturday night, and it went on the end with all the bedrooms. So they should be counting their lucky stars. But great job by everybody cleaning everything up. As always, Public Works always does a great job. I thought I saw Tilly in here. There he is. Thanks, Chris. Good job. And happy Easter to everybody. Enjoy your family. Hopefully enjoy some nice food and family and friends. And with that, I will open up to public comment.
Evening, everyone. I'd just like to go back to the redevelopment thing a little bit. I think.
Nelson Gaskell, just in case you
I'm
didn't
sorry,
know.
Nelson Gaskell. You know, other townships do have this, so I think we got to be on par with them. It gives us a chance to get some developers in and everything. I think we should continue with how we're doing that. You know, it gets to bring in some ratables and everything. I just think we should be doing that. And as far as, I know none of us liked what went on in the last administration with lack of transparency. This will give us some more transparency, and I think that was a very good idea, adding someone else to it from the zoning board. You know.
Wasn't my idea, it was Mr. Bilecki's idea, actually.
Oh.
So, but I agree with him. I
Good idea.
I
It's been around a
overlooked
long
that, I
time.
agree.
So I just think we need to continue doing that, and I think we can move on from lack of transparency that we had and get over that period and put it behind us, and I think we'll be okay with that, with the redevelopment and everything. So I just have something else I'd like to comment on besides that. You know, back in the late 60s when I worked at Wheaton's and worked on the dam, I used to go across that dam with that little cable, cleaning it off and the water going through there and everything. So this is going to be much safer for the workers. I was told to do it, so I did it, you know. Back to that. And just one last thing, I think maybe we should just make a copy of Brett's presentation today with the help of Cindy. It was very good. And maybe we could just send that to Mr. Nah, to tell him we do have a good administrator in this town.
Thank you, Mr. Gaskell. Anybody else? You don't have to raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, Committee, thanks. Jim Link, 676 Park Road, 763 Park Road. The Wheaton's plant, that was in 2005, if I'm not mistaken, was sold and started development under a redevelopment plan. That was in effect and brought those people from New York City down to Hamilton Township to start redeveloping what was the Wheaton's project. In September of 2007, everybody remembers the fire. Wish we could all forget it, but man, it was horrendous. And then from there, you had all kinds of legal stuff, and it's still not, apparently not taken care of, but I understand that it's closer to being resolved. Thank goodness for that. But to think that the stuff that had happened to allow a developer, quote unquote, and I use the term lightly, such as the fellow who wanted to develop that 260 some acres on Wrangleboro Road, okay, which is all RD5, okay, and consider that in need of redevelopment, I mean, is ludicrous. It just absolutely flies in the face of good planning. I'm not talking about, you know, economic developments. I'm talking about good planning, all right? Now, look, as a business person, I agree 100%. First of all, I don't like to pay taxes. I like to pay as little as possible. And I know that ratables help us, you know, reduce that tax burden. It just goes without saying that we want to encourage businesses to come in here that will help with those ratables and lower our tax burden, okay? But to bend this township over a barrel and let these developers, okay, from northern Jersey, from you know, Cherry Hill say, come on, have at it, okay, is just absolutely poor planning, okay, to prostitute the township for the sake of money, okay? Sounds good, but it doesn't do well in terms of planning. The master plan is out the window. The comprehensive master plan is out the window. The comprehensive management plan, the Pinelands, is out the window. When someone says, oh, you can come in here and do what you want to do, build a steel mill out there in Laureldale, and then buy some, you know, offset property and make it something else in the intensive growth area. Come on. To say it needs tweaks is ludicrous, okay? This is major stuff, and we saw problems. Let's fix those problems, not just tweak them, not put a Band-Aid on something that's hemorrhaging poor planning, okay? I mean, I don't know if we've seen any benefits since 2018. And God bless the people who developed that ordinance. Like I told you, Art, when I heard about this, I said, wow, that's a great idea. But then time went by and exposed all kinds of problems, which need more than just a Band-Aid, okay? So I would consider that. Thirdly, and I hate to take up all this time, but, you know, having been a sales marketing manager for major electronic military firms that sold everywhere around the world, I was responsible for setting up and managing a network of sales distributors, okay, and representatives around the world. Okay, enough of that. Why don't we have someone here who's a salesperson go out and get the business, get those developers to come down here, sell Hamilton Township, and then from that, draw a commission, make it worthwhile, so that this person can tell everybody, hey, I'm going to see these people next month, I saw these people last month, and this is where we're going, we got meetings coming up. Why can't we organize either like a business development unit, they call it business development now in the private sector. It's sales, it's marketing. Let's go get it. Let's not wait for people to come here. I mean, who does that?
We had an economic development director, and that was supposed to be her job. She no longer works here.
Well,
Well, all I know, look, All I know is since 2018, there has been no benefit of that ordinance that has inured to any taxpayer in this township. We've got a building where the clubhouse was that's empty, and it's supposed to be a CBD or some, cannabis thing, and it's an eyesore now with chain link fence around. It hasn't done a thing. We've got professionals billing people for apparently nothing, because nothing has happened. I'm not saying that it really hasn't, but you can't see it. I'm talking perspective, perception is reality. And for me, if Township Committee wouldn't mind, I'd really get on that person to try to sell this place, because in today's environment, you can't take business for granted. Thanks.
Jim, if I could make a comment. You're right, the ordinance was done in 2018. 2019, we had this little thing called COVID. Kind of put a little wrinkle in it. So I think you're asking for a lot in a short period of time, because for 2 years, almost 3 years, there really wasn't much happening, right?
Understood. Yep. Understood.
And all the things you're talking about that could have happened with Trophy Park didn't happen. As I stated earlier, that's why the ordinance works. Put there to flush out all this. You cannot select certain developers and say, no, you can't come here. You have to let the process work, where they're going to look at you just the way Mr. Knoll looked at us and the way he talked about us, that we are not business friendly. That's a moniker you do not want. If you have that, they ain't coming. I've been in construction a long time.
Different as well. You got good points. I agree.
How?
I'm talking from a position of...
You have to talk into the microphone, or else I'm going to get yelled at.
Look, Mark, are we...
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, I would like to make a comment about the person that was the community developer. She led him, the developer, to that section that was designated 5A. Now, then the development lawyers, I said, well, why did you encourage them to go into a 5A area? And she said to me, well, that's not my job. My job is to design something that may make it happen under redevelopment. And so he might complain about the $50,000 that he put up for, under the redevelopment plan. But if he were to go into the Pinelands, in order to even apply there, you have to put $50,000 up. And that thing on Bears Head Road, that took $100,000 in the Pinelands area. Was he willing to do that? Now, he had the opportunity to go before the planning board and apply for it how normal developers would apply for it. No, he went and sort of said, oh, I want to buy that area and put low-income housing. All right? Now, I mean, that was his prerogative to say that, but he was trying to punish us for...
I think we should avoid this.
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Solicitor,
Avoid it.
I don't want to disparage the man, anything. He has his right to do that. I would love to pass an ordinance that we can't say Trophy Park ever again, to be honest with you.
I just have one point to make as well.
Go ahead.
It's along what you said. A year ago, we had $2.5 million worth of real estate under contract in the business park. Now, the pandemic might have weighed in on that not happening because the purchaser walked away. But you talk about the ordinance doing what it's supposed to do. When you attract $2.5 million in business, that's doing it. The other thing I would point out, Jim, is the Industrial Commission has a marketing agent. And they've actually done very well. That's all I have.
And to piggyback on that, not that I want to bring it up, I'm not going to bring that up. But I kind of feel like some of the things that are being said are almost, you're almost forcing a developer to do things as quietly as possible. I think by having this redevelopment agreement, it's going to come before this committee. And if they were to go the other way and just say, okay, I'll go in front of the zoning board, they're going to go in front of the zoning board, and I'll sit here and I'll look at everybody out here and say, how many of you have attended a zoning board meeting? And how many of you have been coming here? I know, Harry, I know you have. It's almost like, I think if with this redevelopment, it brings them here where there's a lot more people that come to these meetings that will see it. The meetings are videotaped, and the next day you can watch them. So then, a lot of times, these things don't happen in one meeting. So you're like, holy cow, something's going on. I'm going to go to the next meeting so I can get up and talk. And I'm not saying that can't happen with zoning and planning. It could. It would. Obviously, it costs money, and you need to get people to do it. But that's just one of the things that I see is with this redevelopment ordinance, it brings them here where a lot more people can see what's going on. My opinion, but we have a subcommittee that's working on it. Hopefully they could, within the next couple of meetings, they'll bring some ideas to the table and we could talk about it in front of everybody here and move on from there. So sorry to take up time there. Does anybody else want to speak? You already spoke. Come on, man.
Tip-off just happened.
Tip off. It's 8 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor just said it perfectly. It's got to come back to this committee no matter what. From the subcommittee, 5 commissioners up there, whoever they may be, have to vote. So it's their final decision. It's just not the subcommittee.
Anybody else?
No, I was just want to say, I think it was a good idea. I didn't know that you were going to appoint someone from the zoning board, but I did think that was a good idea. I was just looking at the ordinance. That's it.
Come on, people. Come on.
Motion to close?
I hear a motion to close. Hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are going into executive session. We may come out,
We will.
we will come
I
out,
believe we will.
yeah. And so, Rita, before everybody starts getting up and talking,
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, contract negotiations. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action taken on the matter tonight. And you need a motion and a second and a...
Motion?
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Just wait for Chantel.
I hear a motion to open up to public.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Resolution, Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, withdrawing as a participating municipality in the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County. Do you want to read this, Rita?
Sure. Whereas the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, hereinafter the Township, entered into an agreement with the County of Atlantic and others to participate in the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, and whereas the Township believes it is advantageous to withdraw from the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County to become part of the Joint Municipal Court for the Town of Hamilton, and now therefore be it resolved that the mayor is authorized and directed to execute a copy of this resolution effectively withdrawing the township from the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, and be it further resolved that the township hereby exercises its rights as set forth in 7, page 14 of the agreement establishing the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, said withdrawal to become effective January 1, 2024.
We hear a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
I have a resolution of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, providing for and permitting Hamilton Township to join a joint municipal court with the town of Hamilton. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Well, you want to read it into the record.
Had to read it.
You want to read it?
Sure. Whereas the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, hereinafter the Township, entered into an agreement dated September 23, 2021, providing that the Township participate in the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, and whereas the aforesaid agreement with the County of Atlantic provides that any participants to the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County may withdraw after 2 years. The Township is desirous of withdrawing from the Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, and whereas the Township believes it is advantageous for them to become a member of the Joint Municipal Court for the Town of Hamilton. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township shall become a member of the Joint Municipal Court for the Town of Hamilton. Annexed hereto and made a part hereof, as Exhibit A, is a form of agreement by and between the Town of Hamilton and the Township, providing for, among other things, the Township joining the Joint Municipal Court for the Town of Hamilton. Be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the agreement in the form as attached as Exhibit A, thereby joining the Joint Municipal Court for the Town of Hamilton. The terms and provisions of Exhibit A are incorporated herein as if set forth at length.
So moved.
Second,
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And that concludes all business. Do I hear a motion to
Motion
close?
to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it.
Thank you.